Subscribe to Cheating Tales Lab for more original and exclusive stories. We hope you enjoy this one. Let's begin. The familiar streets of my neighborhood blurred past as I drove home, my eyelids heavy after another grueling 36-hour shift. The weight of countless emergencies, life and death decisions, and the ever-present specter of human suffering clung to me like a second skin. But as I turned onto my street, a small smile tugged at the corners of my mouth. Soon, I'd be home with Sarah and Ethan, my anchors in the storm of chaos that was my job as a paramedic. I pulled into the driveway of our modest suburban home, noticing with mild curiosity that Sarah's car was parked haphazardly, as though she'd been in a hurry. Shrugging it off, I grabbed my duffel bag and made my way to the front door, already imagining the warmth of Sarah's embrace and the excitement in Ethan's eyes as he regaled me with tales of his latest adventures at school. The moment I stepped inside, something felt off. The house was wrapped in an unusual silence, devoid of the typical sounds of Sarah puttering in the kitchen or Ethan's animated chatter. A prickle of unease crawled up my spine as I called out, "Sarah? Ethan? I'm home!" No response. I dropped my bag by the door and made my way through the house, my paramedic's instincts on high alert. As I approached our bedroom, I heard a soft rustling sound. Pushing open the door, I found Sarah standing in front of an open suitcase, her back to me. "Sarah," I said, confusion coloring my voice. "What's going on?" She turned slowly, and the look in her eyes made my blood run cold. It was a mixture of determination, guilt, and something else I couldn't quite place. Pity, perhaps? "John," she said, her voice steady but devoid of warmth. "I didn't expect you home so early." I gestured to the suitcase. "Are you going somewhere? Is everything okay?" Sarah took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders as if preparing for battle. "I'm leaving you, John. I'm sorry, but I can't do this anymore." The world tilted on its axis. I gripped the doorframe for support, certain I must have misheard her. What are you talking about?" "Sarah, if this is about my hours at work, we can figure something out. I can talk to the chief about." "It's not about your hours, John," she interrupted, her voice tinged with impatience. "Well, not entirely. I've met someone else. Someone who can be there for me, for us, in a way you never could." The floor seemed to drop out from under me. "Someone else? Who? How long has this been going on?" Sarah's eyes flickered away from mine, focusing on a point just over my shoulder. "It's Michael, Ethan's teacher." The name hit me like a physical blow. Michael, the charming, charismatic man I'd met at parent-teacher conferences. The one who always seemed to have a special smile for Sarah. As the implications of her words sank in, a horrifying thought struck me. "Ethan," I breathed. "Where's Ethan? What have you told him?" As if on cue, I heard the soft padding of small feet behind me. I turned to see my son, my little boy, standing in the hallway clutching his favorite stuffed animal, a worn teddy bear I'd won for him at a carnival last summer. His eyes were wide and confused, darting between Sarah and me. Sarah brushed past me, kneeling down in front of Ethan. "Sweetie, remember what we talked about? It's time to say goodbye to Daddy. We're going on an adventure with Mr. Michael, and soon you'll have a new daddy who can be there for you all the time." I watched in mute horror as she spoke those poisonous words to our son. Ethan's lower lip trembled, his small hands tightening around the teddy bear. "But I don't want a new daddy," he whispered. "I want my daddy." The sound of tires on gravel cut through the tense silence. Sarah stood, her face set in lines of grim determination. "That's Michael. We need to go." As she moved to grab her suitcase, I finally found my voice. "Sarah, stop. Think about what you're doing. If you walk out that door with our son, there's no coming back from this. Our marriage will be over." She paused, turning to face me one last time. Her eyes were cold, devoid of the warmth and love I'd once seen reflected there. "Oh, honey," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "We were done months ago. You were just too busy saving strangers to notice." With that parting shot, she grabbed Ethan's hand in her suitcase, pushing past me toward the front door. I followed, feeling as though I was moving through molasses, unable to process the speed at which my life was unraveling. As I stepped on the front porch, I saw a sleek black Mercedes idling in our driveway. Michael sat behind the wheel, his handsome face impassive as he watched Sarah load her suitcase into the trunk. The contrast between his luxury vehicle and our modest home was stark, a visual representation of everything I couldn't give Sarah. Ethan looked back at me, his small face crumpling as Sarah buckled him into the back seat. "Daddy," he called out, his voice small and scared. I took a step forward, my heart breaking. "It's okay, buddy. Everything's going to be okay. I love you." But Sarah was already closing the car door, cutting off Ethan's response. She didn't spare me a backward glance as she slid into the passenger seat. As the Mercedes pulled away, I caught a glimpse of Ethan's tear-stained face pressed against the window, his little hand waving goodbye. I stood there, rooted to the spot, long after the car had disappeared from view. The warm summer air felt oppressive, the cheerful chirping of birds a mockery of the devastation I felt. My world, my family, everything I'd worked so hard for, had just driven away in a stranger's car. Slowly, numbly, I made my way back into the house that no longer felt like a home. The silence that had seemed odd earlier now felt deafening. I walked through the rooms, noting the empty spaces where Sarah's things had been, the toys Ethan had left scattered on the living room floor. In our bedroom, my bedroom now, I supposed, I sank onto the edge of the bed, my head in my hands. Sarah's cruel words echoed in my mind. "You were just too busy saving strangers to notice." Had I really been so blind, so caught up in my work that I'd missed the signs of my marriage falling apart? I thought of all the long shifts, the missed dinners, the school events I'd had to skip. I'd always believed Sarah understood the demands of my job, the importance of what I did. Had I been fooling myself all along? As the reality of my new situation began to sink in, a wave of anger washed over me. How dare she? How dare Sarah throw away our years together, our family, for some school teacher with a fancy car, and to take Ethan, to poison him against me? I stood abruptly, pacing the room as my mind raced. This couldn't be happening. There had to be something I could do, some way to fix this. But as the hours ticked by and the shadows lengthened across the room, the awful truth settled over me like a shroud. My wife had left me. She'd taken our son, and I was alone. The days following Sarah's departure passed in a blur of disbelief and mounting anger. I moved through my daily routines like a ghost, going through the motions without really engaging with the world around me. Every corner of the house held a memory, a painful reminder of what I'd lost. One afternoon, I found myself standing in front of our home computer, staring at the screen with a growing sense of dread. I'd logged into our joint bank account, hoping to transfer some money to cover the upcoming mortgage payment. What I saw made my stomach lurch. The account was empty. I clicked through the transaction history, my heart pounding. There it was, a large withdrawal made the day before Sarah left. She'd cleaned us out, leaving me with nothing but bills and an empty house. "God damn it, Sarah," I muttered, slamming my fist on the desk. The financial betrayal felt like a fresh wound on top of the emotional devastation. How was I supposed to keep the house? To fight for custody of Ethan? The unfairness of it all threatened to overwhelm me. Work became both a refuge and a battleground. I threw myself into my shifts with a reckless intensity, eager for the distraction of emergencies and the adrenaline rush of saving lives. But even as I tried to lose myself in the job, Sarah's words haunted me. Had my dedication to my work really cost me my family? My partner, Lisa, started giving me concerned looks. I caught her watching me during calls, her brow furrowed as I snapped at dispatch or handled patients with less than my usual care. I knew I was slipping, but I couldn't seem to pull myself together. It all came to a head during a high-stakes resuscitation. We were working on a middle-aged man who collapsed at a local gym, his heart in VFib. As I prepared to administer a dose of epinephrine, my mind wandered. I saw Sarah's face,